This is the most absurd deck for Pauper, but I thought to myself, what if I made a ridiculously overpriced Pauper deck? So I did. And some of the elves are extremely expensive, so I just went from there. This is more or less a classic elf deck, so we'll start with our 4 copies of Llanowar Elves. These 7th edition foils are $199 each, but you gotta have the Llanowar Elves, right? There are 4 $74 foil Elvish Mystics in here as well, same thing as Llanowar Elves. And all great elf decks have Priest of Titania, right? So why not use 4 copies of the $99 foil versions? Wood Elves is always great, searching for basics into play, but what about 2 of the $60 version? So those are our rampy type guys. Now let's move on to other elf thingies. 4 copies of Essence Warden are in here to gain life whenever another creature enters the battlefield. And most of our deck is creatures, so we'll just gain a ton of life. Not to mention the life from our opponent's creatures as well. The $34 version from Planar Chaos will do nicely. Liss Elena Huntmaster makes 1/1 elves every time we cast an elf, so this is really nice. But what makes it nicer is the $7 foils. I've got 3 Nettle Sentinels in the deck, and it's actually pretty good. A 2/2 for 1 green is great, even if it doesn't untap on our untap step, but it's easy enough to untap, so the 3 of these are going to cost $7 a piece as well. Building upon untapping things, Seeker of Skybreak does just that, untapping one of our creatures, presumably able to reuse those mana dorks at a moment's notice. Only the 7th edition foils would be worth putting in this deck though. 3 of these at $90 a piece will work. 3 foil copies of Quarian Ranger at $149 a piece to do fun untapping things as well. Just return a forest to our hand and untap one of our creatures, only once each turn though. I like making our elves big and tall as well, so 4 foil Timberwatch elves will do nicely. Tap them to give 1 elf +X until end of turn, where X is the number of elves in play. And yes, this counts our opponent's elves, if any. That's right, I'm looking at Euclid Cover Scout. Oh, and these are $6 a piece. I've also added 4 copies of Giant Growth from Limited Edition Alpha. I really like the combat tricks that go along with Giant Growth personally, so I've added it to the deck. Okay, so what happens when we run out of elves in our hand? Well, we can just cast one of our 4 copies of Lead the Stampede. $3 are pretty cheap in comparison to the rest of the deck, but they are definitely pretty. 2 foil copies of Winding Way are also in the deck, coming in at $10 each. These are definitely great, just searching for them elves off the top. Wrapping up the main deck, I've just got 15 limited edition Alpha Forests. These are $50 each. Why you'd pay this much is beyond me, but if you've already got them, great. Moving to the sideboard, I've got 3 limited edition Alpha Fogs. Boy, Alpha cards can be pricey. Prevent that damage and prevent yourself from ever achieving your financial dreams by spending $60 on each of these. 1 Gleeful Sabotage will destroy an artifact or enchantment, and it'll conspire against you for the $6 foils. I personally like temporary anthem effects, so Magnify works really well for me. 2 of these in there at like $1.50 for each of the foils. Most people use Scattershot Archer in their decks for flying creature removal, so I thought, let's add 3 of them because it's a really good card, but only the $5 foils. Spider Silk Armor grants all our creatures reach, and those $22 foils will grant my wife an aneurysm. 2 of these. For more damage to stuff, Viridian Longbow will do. 2 copies of the $12 foils though. And lastly, for those burn decks, we've got 2 Well Wishers. These old foils are neat, and at $16 each, they're sure to make you happy. Well wishes to you indeed. Well, this was really fun, but for real, if you wanted to build this very mid-elf deck, it'd only cost you $57. So that's not bad in comparison. But anyway, let me know what you thought. Elf decks are all over the place, and I'd like to hear what you'd add or get rid of. Thanks to my patrons over on Patreon. Over there, you can receive a monthly printable token sheet for printing at home. I do all sorts of tokens, and I have a lot of fun doing it. Thanks for watching, and make sure you like, subscribe, and ring that bell so you don't miss your weekly dose of magic.